video games to comic books to movies and even TV shows. It seems like more and more we're trying our best to find our comic book superheroes come to life. But where's the one place that you can actually see real life superheroes? That is the wrestling ring. This is Altered Egos. What's up, guys? Eddie Tobias here today, here at Dragon's Lair in Austin, Texas, with my buddy, Steve Reno.
What's going on, man?
Steve has been a professional wrestler for how many years now?
Going on 10 years now.
You've wrestled the likes of Cody Rhodes, Ricochet, to name just some of the few, along their journey into the pros, into the big leagues. What's it been like for you?
Well, I think you'll find that like 99.9% of wrestlers, professional wrestlers, are comic book fans. Like I think at a young age, I think all professional wrestlers wanted to be superheroes or some kind of entertainers or performers of some kind. So I think we're all kind of in that same little realm of comic book fans and comic book heroes.
So what do you like having more fun with, being the hero or being the villain?
Man, as a kid, and when I started, I always saw myself as the hero. I mean, those were kind of the guys I looked up to, but I always had like my favorite villains, you know, like my favorite Batman villains. I was a big Joker fan, big Mr. Freeze, Clayface, the Riddler, all those guys. It's fun to be a heel. It's fun to be a bad guy. It's fun to find ways to cheat and get away with it. Wrestling, it's kind of like a little mix of theater and sportsmanship. So there are no second takes. There are no like do-overs, but it's kind of live action comic book representation, sort of.
Are there any kind of like things that inspired you in your gear? Are there any other heroes or villains that inspired you to create your different personas along the way?
Oh, totally. I mean, Rey Mysterio is the perfect example of like incorporating comic books into wrestling, because he is like the closest thing to a superhero nowadays with all of the moves that he does. So it's funny you mentioned that, because I have like some Green Lantern inspired tights. My performer named Steve Reno, I have the O kind of in the Green Lantern logo there, and it's my black and green set of gear. Green Lantern was always one of my favorites too, just the concept of being able to craft anything he could imagine, you know, with just pure willpower.
Are there comic books that have inspired you? You know, you have Steve Patton in real life and Steve Reno is your alter ego. So are there any comic book alter egos or storylines that maybe inspired you going through tough times as Steve?
Well, my very first character that I ever wrestled under was the American Eagle. And he was the happy-go-lucky, super patriot, red, white, and blue wearing good guy. And I incorporated a lot of like Superman, the super most noble like class you can be. Like basically that's what I modeled him after. And of course, like we all go through dark times and stuff. So I wanted to incorporate like a dark side of that. And Dark Eagle was born out of that. So if you ever get a glimpse of him, he's kind of like the antithesis of the eagle, like the anti-eagle sort of. So he's all black. Instead of like the feathers, he's got claws, and I could go into the whole wrestling aspect of it, but the inspiration was basically there, you know, like the dark kind of side of me that wanted to get out.
Steve said, you know, villains definitely inspired you, and more specifically, the Batman villains. So let's go take a look at some of the comics and see which are your favorite storylines and what are your favorite comic book heroes.
Right on.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
All right, man, so let's find some comic books. Some that you said DC villains that really inspired you. Mr. Freeze right there. All
Boom,
right.
we got Mr. Freeze. Here's one with just a bunch of villains in them all together.
Bane, of course, is one of my favorite DC villains because, first off, he's a wrestler. He's one of like the legit professional wrestlers that becomes one of the biggest and strongest villains in Batman's career.
Love Bane. I mean, here's the iconic image here of him breaking Batman's back with a nice little backbreaker there. I was talking about Mr. Freeze earlier, and he's one of my favorite examples of a villain who thinks he's doing the right thing. And we were talking about wrestling earlier. I've always been told throughout my wrestling training and coming up in the sport is that the best bad guys in wrestling, the best heels, so to speak, don't think they're the bad guy. They think what they're doing is right. And I love Mr. Freeze because I think he's got a cool look and everything, but also all he's trying to do is get his wife back. You know, he's just like trying to find ways to unfreeze her and get her back, but his ways are very extreme, and he doesn't see anything wrong with that as long as he can get his wife back.
Batman Secret Files, very cool. And Detective Comics.
I'm solid the villain stuff today for some
I
reason.
hear it. I hear it. So that'll be $15.12.
Cool.
Special thanks and shout out to my buddy Steve Reno for joining us on the first ever episode of Alter Egos. If you guys want some more information on him, make sure to look at the links and also get on your app, check it out. There's tons of stuff that you can see on DC Universe Online, including all of the issues that we mentioned in today's episode. I'm Eddie Tobias. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys later.